Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya. In this class, we shall discuss about an important topic, that is emergency provisions. So an important topic from UPSC exam point of view, because every year or every alternative year, a question on emergency provision appears in the prelims. So it becomes very important to understand this topic thoroughly. So in this topic, we will be discussing about the different types of emergencies that exist, who can declare emergency, and how long the emergency exists, and what is the need for emergency, all these things. So first we shall understand which part of the Constitution deals with the emergency provisions. So here, part 8 of the Constitution and article number 352 to 360, they deal with emergency provisions. That is 352, 353, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58 and 59, 60. So first question is, do we need to memorize these articles? No, not necessary. So only 3 articles are important, that is 352, 356 and 360, and we'll be discussing about them later on. Next question that arises is, why do we need emergency? So generally emergency provisions are required to meet the abnormal situations effectively. Okay. So whenever there is an abnormal situation, it means an emergency has arrived and we'll invoke the emergency provisions. Okay, emergency provisions. Similar to how we need an ambulance when there is an emergency related to what, health and all. So similarly, whenever there is an abnormal situation in the country, then we will invoke emergency. Okay, we will invoke the emergency provisions. So why these emergency provisions are invoked? To safeguard sovereignty. So we already seen about sovereignty. What is sovereignty? Self-rule. That is, there should be no external influence. We should rule ourselves. So whenever there is a threat to sovereignty, so we can invoke emergency to safeguard our sovereignty. Similarly, whenever there is a threat to unity and integrity of the nation, so it means an abnormal situation has arisen. In such situations also, we will invoke the emergency provisions to safeguard the unity and integrity of India. Similarly, when there is a threat to the security of the country, again, it falls under the abnormal situation, and in order to address this abnormal situation also we will invoke emergency provisions of the Constitution. Next, whenever there is a threat to the democratic political system, so what kind of system exists in India? So in India, political system which is democratic. So whenever there is a threat to this democratic political system, again that will be considered as an abnormal situation, and at that time also emergency provisions can be invoked. Similarly, when there is a threat to the Constitution of India, also we can invoke the emergency provisions. So from these things we understand that whenever there is an abnormal situation, so we will invoke the emergency provisions which are present in the Constitution. Now the next question arises, what is this emergency? So what are the changes that happen during emergency? So first we shall understand at the superficial level. So during normal times, our system is federal in nature or federal structure. But during emergency, it becomes unitary. So without formal amendment of the Constitution. So we will not amend the Constitution, but still our system will become unitary rather than federal. So what is this unitary and federal? Already we have discussed in some other topic, but just let us try to revisit them. Okay, revisit them. So we say federal system because as per the 7th schedule of the Constitution, the powers have been divided. So between the center and the states. So we already know. So list 1, which is also called as union list, and next list 2, which is also called as state list, and list 3, which we also call it as concurrent list. So we have seen with the help of 7th schedule how the powers have been divided between the center and the states. So when it comes to legislature, who can make laws on the subjects of union list? Center can make laws on the subjects of union list. Next, when it comes to subjects of state list, who can make law? States can make law. Next, similarly, when it comes to concurrent list, who can make law? Both center as well as states can make law on the concurrent list subject. And in case of discrepancy, the center's law will prevail. So already we have discussed the division of powers between the center and state with respect to legislation. Similarly, when it comes to executive powers, here also we have seen that there is a division of power between center and state. So when it comes to implementation of the subjects present in the union list, who has the responsibility? Center. Similarly, when it comes to implementation of the subjects present in the state list, who has the responsibility? State. When it comes to implementation of the subjects present in the concurrent list, who has the responsibility? By default, it is state. By default, it is state, and if Parliament explicitly confers it on center, then center can implement it. Okay, implement it. So these provisions already we have seen. So what does this indicate? It indicates the system is federal in nature. So what is federal? So powers are divided between the center and the states. But what do we understand by unitary? Unitary means center will become all the powerful. Center will become all the powerful. It means center can make laws on union list subjects. Center can make laws on state list subjects. Center itself can make law on concurrent list subjects. Okay. During normal times, center can make laws only on the union list subjects. But during emergency, center can make laws on the union list subjects. Center can make laws on the state list subjects. Center can also make laws on the concurrent list subject. It means the powers which were enjoyed by state have now been taken by the center. So center will become all the powerful. So that is why during emergency, this federal structure is converted into unitary. This federal structure is converted into unitary. Not only legislative powers, even executive powers. So center will start implementing the subjects of the union list. Center will start implementing the subjects of state list as well. Center will start implementing the subjects of what? Concurrent list as well. So with respect to both legislature as well as executive, center will become powerful at the time of emergency. That is how the federal structure, it gets converted into unitary during emergency. Okay. And states, they go into the control of center. States will go under the control of center. So this is how an emergency situation is different from the normal situation. So in normal situation, the system is federal, and in emergency situation, the system is unitary, wherein the center will become all the powerful and states will go under the control of the center. Next, our constitution, it defines or it mentions about 3 different types of emergencies. So one emergency is under article number 352. Next, one more is under 356 and 360. So 352, it deals with national emergency. 356 deals with president's rule, and 360 deals with financial emergency. So we'll be discussing all these emergencies in detail in the forthcoming classes. But now at superficial level, we shall see that article number 352, it is popularly called as national emergency, popularly known as. Okay. So whether the term national emergency appears in the constitution? No. The term national emergency nowhere appears in the constitution. Then what is the equivalent term that has been used in the constitution in order to refer to national emergency? The term which is used in the constitution is proclamation of emergency. So it means whenever we say proclamation of emergency, it means we are referring to national emergency. We are referring to national emergency or emergency that has been declared under article number 352. Okay, 352. Next, any of these emergencies, whether it is under 352 or 356 or 360, who has the power to declare emergency? Very important point to note. So in all the cases, president has the power to declare emergency. And one more thing that we have to note is, president does not have the discretionary power to declare emergency. President cannot declare on his own an emergency. So always president will be advised by Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister. So based on the advice of Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister, president will what? Declare emergency. President will declare emergency. Now, president will declare emergency. So on what grounds president can declare emergency? So president can declare national emergency on grounds of war, on grounds of external aggression, or on grounds of armed rebellion. President can declare national emergency on grounds of war, external aggression, or armed rebellion. So an example. So let us assume India, and here we have Pakistan. Here we have Pakistan. So let us assume a war is taking place between India and Pakistan. In such a scenario, when there is a war between India and Pakistan, in such a scenario, President can declare national emergency. Okay, one example. Next, external aggression. On some part of the India, boundaries of India, let us assume China is trying to attack India, or China is attacking India. So that can come under external aggression. Whenever there is an external aggression, at that time also we can declare national emergency. That is, President can declare national emergency. Next, let us take one more example. So Maoists, okay, let us assume within India, Maoists are fighting against our armed forces. Okay, fighting against our armed forces. So that will be called as armed rebellion. So within India, the people of India are fighting against our own army using weapons. So that will come under armed rebellion. So in all of these three cases, President can declare national emergency. So first one is war, next is external aggression and armed rebellion. In all the three cases, President can declare national emergency. National emergency. Next, again in detail, we will be discussing about the national emergency later on. Just at a superficial, we have seen what are the grounds on which national emergency can be declared. Next, under article number 356, so President can declare President's rule. Okay, it is also called as state emergency or constitutional emergency. So President can declare President's rule, or it is also called as state emergency or constitutional emergency under article number 356. So when it comes to President's rule, in the Constitution, nowhere the term emergency has been used. Very important. Many times UPSC might ask such kind of question. So when it comes to President's rule, what kind of emergency has been mentioned in the Constitution? So with respect to President's rule, nowhere emergency term appears in the Constitution. Okay, appears in the Constitution. So here, when will we invoke article number 356 or President's rule? Whenever there is a failure of constitutional machinery in states. So whenever there is a failure of constitutional machinery in the states, then we can invoke President's rule. But initially we get confused. What is this failure of constitutional machinery? So for time being, we need not worry much about it. At a superficial level, we shall understand that all our system should work according to the provisions of the Constitution. But when the system is not working as per the provisions of the Constitution, then we consider that the constitutional machinery has failed, and when constitutional machinery has failed, then President can invoke what? Article number 356 and impose President's rule. Okay. Again, detail we'll be discussing later on. Next, article number 360. Article number 360 of the Constitution. So it discusses about financial emergency. So here also President can declare financial emergency when he can declare when there is a threat to financial stability or credit of India. So what is financial stability? So let us take one example. If inflation is too high, okay, if unemployment is too high, then we call it as financially India has become unstable. So in such scenario, President can declare financial emergency. Again, in detail, we will be discussing about financial emergency later on. Okay. So now we shall start discussing about the national emergency in detail. National emergency under article number 352. 352. 352. So in the next class, we'll start discussing about the national emergency under article number 352 in detail. Thank you.